Everybody, thanks for watching, and welcome to basically part two of my video on this whole coronavirus thing. And I really wanted to get into the economy part of this and how 5G is really going to change the economy coming forward and what that really entails, and how we can clear up a lot of the misconceptions about 5G and what's actually going on versus what the media is talking about and the way they're trying to make Trump look versus 5G in the media. But I want to elaborate a little bit more on the coronavirus and get you guys to understand how more so it's crazy that we've been seeing the signs, and we've been seeing a lot about coronavirus, and we've been hearing a lot about viruses as far as when it can affect us globally, from Obama to Bill Gates, and a lot of people were speaking out about the potential of a global pandemic. But now you understand, seeing the video, how when you look at a lot of those Lysol aerosol cans, you understand now why you saw the whole coronavirus and rhinovirus. I have products in here at home that show you, just talking about the rhinovirus and coronavirus, because that's what they cause. And a lot of these other cleaning products actually, helps to get rid of the virus. So you have like Dettol, that's what I use here, and it tells you clear as day. It will basically stop those viruses from happening. You don't have any type of fumes or any type of aerosols that will spray any metals or anything that's going to cause you to self detoxify and cause the common cold. So it's a lot of stuff out there, but it makes sense now why a lot of people was talking about why you see the human rhinovirus on a lot of these cleaning products from back in the day. Now you understand why. So again, I was talking about Batman, and how, and Batman was the first place. Batman: The Dark Knight was where we first seen him put out that type of technology with sonar, where he could basically map the environment around him. Also, I talked about with Batman how Bane and a whole thing with Gotham, make Gotham great again, that whole slogan. Remember in Batman, the Dark Knight Rises, what happened? It was sports. Sports got stopped. He stopped the whole sporting event so he could basically quarantine everybody in that movie. And it's a lot of stuff that they're showing us in Batman as well that I wish I had more time to get into. But we can see, first of all, the movie is about a dude dressed like a bat, human bat. So, humans and bats have this whole connection with the coronavirus, and it's weird that it's in a movie called Batman, and we have this whole epidemic with, involving a bat, that we find the similarities between that movie, that Batman movie, and this whole virus. But this is how they put information out here, and how they tell us what they're going to do. As I told you guys, they have to tell us. They have to put out there what they're going to do. And we have been seeing it. A lot of us have been talking about it for decades. And now a lot of people are starting to listen. A lot of people is, I've been contacted by people I haven't talked to in a long time about this type of information. A lot of people who was able to see the video before it was taken down, saw the video, and everybody really agrees on the information and wanted more information. But it's a lot you got to understand about how they've been preparing us for this whole thing. And you guys got to really understand what they have been doing to us. The cat's out the bag on a whole making you sick every year thing. And I hope I brought that to a lot of you guys' consciousness about every year, right around the time you have cold and flu season. If you get sick, now you understand how to prevent that and to watch out for that. And now that is raised in your consciousness, you will notice that you'll get less sick. You won't get sick as much as people who are outside breathing in all those fumes, all those metals. So if it's raining out, I'm telling you, if they spraying and it start raining later on, or if it gets really windy, don't go outside. I don't care when the shit is over. If you want to stay healthy, don't go out. The rain is so bad. I mean, I don't know if you guys, I'm old enough, and who knows, they probably were spraying it back then. But honestly, I remember when it rained and my car didn't get as dirty as it does. Like, what is it about the rain that after it rains, it leaves these little spots on your car? I mean, it's crazy. It tells you it's something in the rain. And then you got to remember how it was keeping people from, distilling rainwater, keeping people from collecting rainwater and drinking it. Remember that whole thing. So we understand now why they was doing that and keeping people and making it illegal in certain towns for people to collect rainwater. You would think if it's natural rainwater, people can collect it and it shouldn't be a problem. But now you understand why, because, people can get sick from that. But we got to understand they've been preparing us for a while for this whole thing. And it wasn't just Bill Gates that came out and talked about this before. I remember Obama had a lot to say about the coming pandemic before. So they've been preparing us, for a while for this. And a lot of people knew what was coming. We know about the senators that basically sold their stock in hotels and hospitality chains. And a lot of people got rich off of what happened and what's going on here early. So they already know. They was already preparing us for this. And the pharmaceutical companies are going to make billions of dollars off of this whole thing. And a lot of people who are still believing in this mess and believing the news are going to get sick. And there's a lot of people still dying from this. And I'm seeing more and more people post on Facebook about somebody they know who died from this, because, as I said, it's real. But it's from your own body triggering this stuff and causing people to have massive detoxification, which is causing pneumonia. And if you're sickly or you have, bad, health or poor health, you're going to die from it. And who knows what they've done to you once you get to the hospital. We're seeing this virus seemingly attack Black people more than anybody else. And you heard the guy, I forget his name, from New York, come out and speak about this and say, more Black people are dying from this than anybody else. And that's not something that, we should be shocked about. And it's one of those things where you're going to have Black people looking at it and they're going to say, well, this was designed to kill Black people. You had a lot of people before they started coming out and saying, well, this was designed to kill white people. But even more so, you got to understand, we are a lot more protected from this. It's seemingly killing more white folks than Black folks. Trust me on that. A lot of Black people getting it. But you want to put those numbers out there and say that and pound home on that so people can understand that it's geared to, it's just to keep the racial tension going in the midst of all of this stuff. But if you're from the hood and you Black, you know a lot of Black people, how many of your friends is sick and have it? I mean, you got to look at it from that point of view. How many people that you know that's Black that actually has it? And if the numbers were the way they saying, you would think more people would be dying from it. But their estimates is only 13,000 people that die from it. So it's like, I believe, 200 and something thousand people in America that cases, or 400,000 cases or something like that. And only 13,000 people have died from it. Like my best friend, he recovered from it. He's home, he's fine, he's doing good now. But a lot of people are not, and we don't really know the numbers. And as I said before in the first video, you got to look at the fact that you have still every year about 60,000 people always coming into the hospital, always coming in there for regular influenza. You have thousands of people, almost 1 million people a year in America die of influenza. And, how can they include those numbers in with the coronavirus deaths? So it's all they doing. It's the same crap. But we understand now why before this happened, they got rid of Dr. Sebi. Dr. Sebi's gone. Remember, it was like 60 other natural herbalists that disappeared and died right after Dr. Sebi. You understand, not too long ago, we had Nipsey die, who was putting on a documentary on the whole thing. And then now we see the previews for Nick Cannon's documentary on Dr. Sebi when it's too late. It's too late. They already hatched this plan. And now when this is going on, we're seeing, previews for the documentary. So we know this was the reason behind all of that, to have somebody like Dr. Sebi and these herbalists out here to tell you that, one, this is some bullshit, and that what's happening is a natural occurrence in the body. Somebody with a lot more credentials or a lot more, let's say, reach than me can come out and say, this is this, this is that, and people need to chill out. And you have somebody that's a proven healer that has healed people of AIDS and all kinds of stuff, like Dr. Sebi, who could come out and say, well, this is some bullshit. And, that's one of the reasons why they got rid of him. And again, this is not something that they didn't know about. This was planned years in advance. This is what they knew was coming when you start to look at and research everything that's going to be coming with 5G, which we're going to get into in this video, which is crazy. It's a lot of stuff. And it's going to call into question a lot of the stuff the news has been reporting that's clearly bullshit. So now you just pay attention to everything that we're hearing, the whole narrative. One, remember, before this happened, you had the whole comparisons between Trump and Hitler. They kept showing them two together. When you understand what's happening today, even the words, the terminology that we're using, essential workers. If you've seen Schindler's List, then you understand all this is all Nazi talk. This is all Nazi Germany shit that we're witnessing that's going on. This extermination, I should say, that's happening in a way that it was in Nazi Germany. So you have Trump, who they equating with Hitler, and you have this whole thing where, they were talking about with the Jews in the concentration camps, essential workers who can be essential to the war efforts, and so on and so forth. And we're throwing that word out today, essential workers, non-essential workers, same stuff. What did they do in Nazi Germany? They killed the old people. If you was old or you was crippled or sick, they shot you in the head, buried you. And that's what they was doing, getting rid of the weak. They couldn't use you to benefit the economy or benefit them, the war effort in any way. So you was useless. And Schindler's List, remember the guy with the one arm? He was trying to shovel snow, and it was like, well, you can't even shovel snow. You got one arm. They blew his brains out. And this is the whole thing we're seeing there. This is deliberately done every year, even before this happened, to get rid of the old people, to get rid of weak. We're talking about population decreasing. They've been doing it not in just this way, but in a number of ways. So a lot of you guys got to really pay attention to the cosmetics that you use in women, the stuff they put in your faces, because a lot of that causes sicknesses. It causes you to get colds and so on and so forth. But as I said, if you're a person who is in good shape, you're up on your diet, you're up on your health, your body, this is not going to affect you. It's not going to affect you. They can try to trigger it all they want, but if you're not out in this stuff for too long, and I would recommend staying out of the rain. Don't let that stuff touch your bare skin and let you get wet too much in this. Who knows what's in this stuff? Your skin absorbs that. Those metals get into you, and you're going to detoxify, and it's not going to be good. But this is what they're doing. This is what they're triggering, and they're getting rid of a lot of homeless people, a lot of old people, a lot of people that got poor health, people that's not essential. So we can see essential to their whole thing. But we can see what's happening and how they're using this, and the death numbers that they're giving us could be possibly way more than what they're saying. To be honest. So we don't know, but we know that they've been making us sick and they're keeping us sick, and this whole thing is about keeping you from going outside. I mean, it's a lot to this that we got to understand. Like when you start to dig into the whole point that they can just make you sick and make you self-detoxify, and you think that's your body's own natural thing, or we've been thinking for years, you go to cold, you got sick, you touched something, you caught some germs and you got sick. When they've been putting stuff, remember, it's only 11 companies that basically make everything that we use. 11 companies, they make everything. So we're talking about these companies getting together and putting stuff in our products to trigger us to detoxify, so the pharmaceutical companies they also own can make money. So they triple and quadruple dipping off of the products. They're making money. The meat, they're making money. You're making money off of the freaking the pharmaceuticals, and it's just so much money. And then meanwhile, we're paying taxes. I mean, they're milking us. They're milking us, and it's a whole process that's been going on for decades that they have been using, and we have been just thinking that everything is okay. And a lot of people falling for it, and a lot of people thinking that they're sick, and it's something that's natural as far as how they got sick, but it's something that's triggered within you to cause you to detoxify from these chemicals and the stuff that they're using. So again, if you eating clean and you eating healthy, this is something that should not happen. The amount of detoxification that will happen in your body during that process, you would basically poop out. It would come out as waste, and you'll sweat it out if you're working out. It'll sweat out through your pores. There's a lot of other ways that you can get rid of it. That's why when you have the flu, I mean, you're cold on the inside, the outside you're burning up, because it's like it's trying to sweat this virus out. So now to get into how this is going to really change our world, again, you got to go back and look at World War II and what that whole thing was about. We're talking about a global change that happened back then in the 40s, and it was a big thing, as big as this is now. So even though there wasn't quarantine, if you remember, you go back to Cold War times and then World War II and all the stuff that was going on. Remember, kids had to go to school with freaking gas masks. They had oxygen masks and gas masks. They had a whole drills where they had to hide under the freaking desk in case bombs fell, because they was expecting an impending attack from, the Russians, from the Soviet Union. So remember, like in the 40s, they went through some stuff. Like we quarantine right now, but this is not the first time the world has had to, well, America at least, had to basically brace themselves for something major that was coming as a country and change their lives as a country for something that was, about to happen. So, in the 40s and during the Cold War and everything like that, it was crazy. It was, panic all the time, especially when you have the prospect of nuclear war. The whole thing where, damn, we can all die. I mean, it's way worse than now. I mean, we're quarantined and all, but we don't have the threat of a nuclear bomb being dropped and just wiping out the whole city and killing everybody. Remember, they used to show those videos of what can happen and how a nuclear weapon can do this and that, and scared the hell out of people. So this is not the first time, but we got to go back to Nazi Germany, World War II, and remember that out of World War II, there was a new world order in Europe. Before World War II, we remember the countries were separated. I talked about this before, and there was borders. You had to go, cross borders, even still today, but now you can pass without it being a big deal. Like if you are a citizen of Germany, you could be a citizen of Sweden, so on and so forth. Before World War II, it wasn't that way. So now, after World War II, it basically was a new world order in Europe. So out of World War II, you had, World War II ended, I believe it was May 1945. The next month, June 1945, you had the formation of the United Nations. And the United Nations was basically like, it's basically like the New World Order, you might as well say. And you have 3 years later, Israel becomes a nation. And then, the world basically changes in a major way, during this process out of World War II. And this is what we're going to be seeing after this. When this is over, I see a lot of stuff going up and people saying the world is going to be different. Don't expect the world to be the same when we get out of it. The world is going to be the same when we come out of it. It's not going to be the same in the sense that there's going to be basically, better things coming for us. The bad part is not really going to be known as much to us, to make it clear. Like, we're going to come out of this, and like I said, the worst thing that could possibly happen, not the worst thing, but one of the worst things that's probably going to happen is probably mandatory vaccinations for kids. I don't see it happening for adults to get back in school, and they probably require it at certain jobs and stuff like that. And it's just going to be to cover up. It's just going to be one to stop the detoxification process from all the shit they've been spraying on us over the last few months. That's going to be the main reason for that. So you're going to have that. You're going to probably have, or what's happening with, matter of fact, we'll get into this in a little bit, one of the reasons why they need all these businesses to close. But remember, out of World War II, we had this big change. Out of this, we're going to have a big change as far as, our daily life, business-wise, economically, schools. It's going to be a 5G change. It's going to push us into a better, easier, life, but we're going to lose a lot in the process. But again, all of this coronavirus stuff is a cover up for 5G, to cover up what they're doing with 5G as far as getting this stuff together. And as I said, this began in China. Now, how many of you know what's been happening in China before this? How many people know what's been going on in China, around the time all this began, and it hasn't stopped, really? So you had in China, basically war, almost civil war in China, Hong Kong specifically, for a few reasons. So now you see all that going on. I understand this was last year, the end of last year, before all of this started, about extradition. And with the extradition law that they passed, what was essentially going to happen was they will be able to basically target anybody in Hong Kong as a potential terrorist or as a potential person of interest and extradite them to China to face, prosecution for whatever reason, or to face investigation where they can just hold you and detain you until they figure out that you cool. Like, who want to go through that? But after that, or during that time, if you guys remember, they passed a law basically banning the mask. The mask that everybody's wearing right now. They've been wearing them in China for years because China's air quality is so horrible. And you got to remember, we're talking about, they are the #1 producer in the world. They produce everything. They have all the manufacturing plants. There's so much pollution and air pollution over there. It's crazy. So they've been wearing the mask for a while. But then they banned them in Hong Kong, right? And the reason why they banned them is because people figured out, well, they couldn't do facial recognition. And they couldn't scan people's faces with those masks on So they banned them, and the people caught on. And if you remember, they were showing the videos with them cutting down the 5G towers and cutting down the street lights with video cameras that were scanning them